people. That part right there is telling you that you have to self-identify. See, the first thing it says, self-identification. That means that you identify yourself as an indigenous people and that you are the one responsible for stating your status, right? And the states shall respect the right to such self-identification as indigenous, whether it's an individual or a group, individually or collectively, in keeping with the practices and institutions of each indigenous people. That means that some tribes are slightly different in cultural expression of the same culture. One tribe might barbecue turkey for the chief, but another one might slaughter a bison. Right? But whichever one it is, we know what the culture is saying. All right. Article 2 says states recognize and respect the multicultural and multilingual character of indigenous peoples who are an integral part of their societies. Right? When they say multicultural, that means it's a whole lot of different cultures from the land. And then it say multilingual character. That means that we got a lot of languages. So they can't say that, well, you don't speak this language, you ain't indigenous. They can't say that because they right here acknowledging that. And they saying that we are an integral part of the society. Well, these things are an integral part of our societies, right? So then we go into Article 3. Indigenous people have the right to self-determination. What that means? Your rights is not negotiable. They are inalienable. So self-determination is you got the right to determine which one of the chiefs you following, if you following the one in your direct bloodline descent, or if you following the one from your tribal clan descent. Right? So it's different per tribe across the land because they already told you we got a multi-cultures on our land already before they came. Right? And by virtue of that right to self-determination, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. That means that they can't interrupt us economically, our social behaviors of our tribal affiliations. They can no longer persecute us for wearing feathers in public. Right? And cultural development, that means going back to our original traditions and customs, because we have to go back to our shit to overthrow their shit. All right. Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group, or persons any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act contrary to the character of the Organization of American States or of the Charter of the United Nations, or construed as authorizing or encouraging any action which would dismember or impair, totally or in part, the territorial integrity and political unity of sovereign and independent states. What that means? That means that Article 4 of this declaration says that the United Nations can't interfere in our business, nor any other individual states that's under the Charter, Organization of American States, or the Charter of the United Nations. So the United Nations is also in an agreement with America, right, which gave them control of the policing policies on the land. That's why they closed now. right? All right, let's go on to the next part. Do this look like we getting to something?
That shit get lit, man.
Mm-hmm. All right, human rights and collective rights, right? Full effect and observance of human rights. Remember what Malcolm said? We don't need civil rights.
Yeah, right.
He said we need human rights, right?
Mm-hmm.
This it right here. Indigenous people and individuals have the right to the full enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms as recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Charter of the Organization of American States, and international human rights laws. That means this taking all of those people they just named in there,
mm-hmm.
that they saying they can't interfere in our fundamental freedoms and our basic human rights any longer.
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, they was an occupied government masquerading as a de facto government when they were, as a de jure government when they were in fact operating under the color of law in a de facto capacity and giving us the illusion that they had the authority. But all corporations derive their authority, all corporate political bodies, from the people that they govern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you don't give them the right to govern you, which Trump signed the second Declaration of Independence in July of 2020. Right? So I sent that to you. We were probably going to get pulling up. Yep. So like the first 5 minutes of that video is fire. All right. Now we go to something called collective rights. That means when we stand together in unity, all this right here apply to us standing together as the collective unified clans on the land or the tribes of the land. Indigenous people have collective rights that are indispensable for their existence, well-being, and integral development as a people. In that regard, states recognize and respect the rights of indigenous people to their collective action, to their that word look like it's misspelled.
Action.
It's juridical, which it should have been jurisdictional, social, political, or judicial, social, political, and economic systems or institutions. This is giving us back control of Big Mama Bank right here.
Yeah.
To their own cultures. Our culture, we already had a banking system. To profess and practice their spiritual beliefs, to use their own tongues and languages, and to their lands, territories, and resources, states shall promote with the full and effective, let's go to the next page.
Oh, shit. Right there.
Participation of indigenous peoples, the harmonious coexistence of the rights and systems of different population groups and cultures. This is saying that one clan can't interfere with how another clan handle their business, but at the same time, all of us can come together in agreement to oust the imposter. That's basically what it's saying. Keep going. We gonna deal with it because we already know what the gender thing is with our people.
All right, let's go. Rights belong to indigenous people.
Right to belong to indigenous people. Indigenous individuals and communities have the right to belong to one or more indigenous peoples in accordance with the identity, traditions, customs, and systems of belonging of each people. No discrimination of any kind may arise from the existence of such a right. Right? So they recognize that we got different cultures under tribes, and they recognize that we shouldn't be, there's no more discrimination based on that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Judicial personality. Oh, that's a good one. States shall recognize. Is that judicial? I can't really tell. It looked like, okay, states shall recognize fully the judicial personality of indigenous people, respecting indigenous forms of organization and promoting the full existence of the rights recognized in this declaration. That looked like juridical.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. I don't think it's juridical.
Yeah, that's coming from the root word juris as in jurisprudence.
Matter of fact.
Yeah, you got the legal dictionary. Pull the definition of that motherfucker up so we can get more detail with this shit.
That shit ain't running no game. But how they play the words, man. They be switched the shit around. Okay.
Now, the two most important parts I want to get to after we define this word is where they said that, because this one made me think about it. It's like indigenous people had a right to maintain, express, and freely develop their cultural identity in all respects, free from any external attempt at assimilation. That means they can no longer force us to assimilate into the overall society in order to be functional as a tribe. That means that we can do business with our own and we ain't gonna suffer no backlash from it. And remember what Garvey said, beware them assimilationist ass Negroes.
That joint not even in this joint. Let's see. I might get pull up on JRT. All right. In the civil law of Louisiana, the expression of will that is intended to have legal consequences.
Read that again. So, kind of like staticky when he was reading.
It says in expressing or will that is intended to have legal consequences.
Yeah. So it goes back to the root word, like I said, juris, which is dealing with the law. So this is saying that there will be lawful impact for interfering with us.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So now we want to go to the part where they say we got a right to all tribal lands.
Because this is the protecting against genocide. These people have the right not to be the objects of any form of genocide or attempted to exterminate them. That's already happening. I was waiting to get this and go down to the land. Right, culture, identifying. That's not it. Man, that's right. Some good stuff right here for teach your kids. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in America.
This part right here was talking about going back to our own culture. Now this is giving us the right to educate our children right here.
Okay.
Education.
You want? Okay. Keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go down. Indigenous spiritual. That's like the practice.
Oh, stop right there. We got to read that. Our spirituality is important enough for us to read that here on page 17. That's a Q flip. Indigenous people had a right freely to exercise their own spirituality and beliefs, and by virtue of that right to practice, develop, transmit, and teach their traditions, customs, and ceremonies, and to carry them out in public and in private, whether individually or collectively. So this is so that when we have Mardi Gras from coast to coast, nobody don't try to stop us. That's what that's for.
Mm-hmm. All right. You gonna read the part 2 or keep on going down?
I want to go to the part on the land
Land, okay, indigenous family.
and the resources.
Okay, all right, here. Right to protect health environment. All right, resemble freedom. It's like the Constitution is kind of like based on some of this stuff too, with all the add-ons.
Mm-hmm. Right there, stop.
Okay, right here.
Back up.
Okay.
Autonomy and self-government. That's important.
Okay, right there.
Yeah. Remember, I was telling you to be autonomous. Self-government is to govern yourself, is to be autonomous. This is right here, the right to autonomy or self-government. Indigenous people, in exercising their right to self-determination, have the right to autonomy or self-government in matters relating to their internal and local affairs, as well as ways and means for financing their autonomous functions. So they saying from this that it's got to be provided for them to do this. Provisions got to be made, right? 2, indigenous people had a right to maintain and develop their own decision-making institutions. This talking about restoring the matriarchy right here. They also have the right to participate in decision-making in matters which would affect their rights. Anything affect our rights, if we ain't in it, they can't do it.
Okay.
They may do so directly or through representatives, and in accordance with their own norms, procedures, and traditions. They also have a right to equal opportunities in accessing and participating fully and effectively as peoples in all national institutions and forums, including deliberative bodies. That means no politics go down and they exclude us. They right there, they agree that don't no politics go down on this land called the Americas, and we ain't in it. All right, let's go. Indigenous law and jurisdiction. Indigenous people had a right to promote, develop, and maintain their institutional structures and their distinctive customs, spirituality, traditions, procedures, practices, and in the cases where they exist, judicial systems or customs in accordance with international human rights standards.
Okay.
Open up. Excuse me 1 second.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so and then it say indigenous law and legal systems shall be recognized and respected by national, regional, and international legal systems. Right. So this is because when we kick them off the land, they jurists got to go. They bar associations have to go. Right. You already heard them say that they've been already told to leave.
Yeah, they formed.
I sent you that video, didn't I? All right. Now, matters concerning indigenous individuals or their rights or interests in the jurisdiction of each state shall be conducted in such a way as to afford indigenous individuals the right to full representation with dignity and equality before the law. Consequently, they are entitled without discrimination to equal protection and benefit of the law, including the use of linguistic and cultural interpreters. Right? So now it's a part in here. Let's hold on. It's a matters concerning indigenous individuals or their rights or interests in the jurisdiction of each state shall be conducted in such a way as to afford indigenous individuals the right to full representation with dignity and equality before the law. This is the part where we call Larry Hoover for with this. Because he has to give a report on the land to the rest of the chiefs, and he can't do it as an inmate. He can't be a bond servant and a king or a prince or a chief. Right? So this is what this is telling us. He has to give us this report. They already know that this is part of our long-standing tradition before they ever came here. Right? That's why they said we're not going to remember our culture. This is telling us when we lean on our culture, they have to accommodate. That's what that's saying. So this is the part where we calling for free Larry Hoover right here, because the three kings represent full representation on the world stage. And you see right here where it say they are entitled without discrimination to equal protection and benefit of the law, including the use of linguistic, cultural,